Hey everyone, I'm Carson, and I'm excited to share with you all another psycho-spiritual framework. I learned by teaching, and so I've presented on another one of these. I'll put a link to it in there on spiral dynamics, and this is the next one. I'm really excited to talk about this because, for one, it's ancient and it remains extremely useful. So it's the Six Realms of Suffering, and it's from Buddhism. During this lecture, I'm going to talk a little bit slowly. That's so that I can have better sentences. And if it's slow for you, just remember on YouTube, you can go to 1.2 or 1.5x. And I kind of recommend that. I think I like to listen to myself on those speeds more than the speed at which I actually talk. So, the six forms of suffering are about places that you can be and they cause suffering. And that's all I'm going to say before getting into it. This image is the Bhava Chakra. It's on the outside of nearly every Tibetan Buddhist monastery, and it is older than the Bible. It is said to have been drawn by Siddhartha Gautama himself, and it is a map of all of reality, according to Buddhism. I'm not going to talk about all of it. I'm going to talk about the part outlined here. So this is the six realms. These are the places that we exist before we escape. These make up the wheel of samsara. And the claim is that unless you are enlightened, you are in one of these now, or multiple ones, or different ones at different times. There are many images of these six realms, these six places that you can be unenlightened in. Here's a comic one I found. I like the art here. Before getting into it and talking about like what does it mean to be in this place that's causing me suffering, I want to talk a little bit about hermeneutics and demythologization. Hermeneutics is how we interpret things, how we interpret bits of culture, especially old bits of culture and religions. I'm going to speak about these places as states of mind rather than physical locations, rather than a place that you can die and appear and then suddenly you'll see these specific things, a place that you can physically go. So, in doing this, am I modernizing myths that are meant to be taken literally? That's a question worth asking. Or was the Buddha, was Siddhartha Gautama a philosopher? And were the things that he was saying, did he mean states of mind? And then in some places it got turned into religions about literal places, because there are sects of Buddhism where these the hell realm is one of the realms. The hell realm or the god realm or the human realm are these places that there are religions where they're treated as physical places that you can be. And I'm not going to talk about them that way. I think the main thing that I'm going to say to about all of this, it's worth thinking about and digging into if you're interested in the history of Buddhism and how it spread. I live in California, so what I'm talking about is essentially California Buddhism, and it is probably a sub area that I don't know about of California Buddhism, a sub branch. And if it's not your Buddhism, then great, like you do you. That's how religions work. I will say though that Mahayana Buddhism, which is like an enormous part of Buddhism, is quite clear on this, that these are it's well aligned with the psycho-spiritual interpretation, and that these are postures of experience towards reality. And I also want to say, in like two concerns of whether this is a westernization or some kind of like watered down version, is just like the East and West are not isolates, especially with philosophy and with the major religions. They've heavily influenced each other throughout time. So Buddhism in Sri Lanka, as it exists now, would not exist without influence from the West as well. And there's all kinds of stories about that you can read about that. There's a rich history of interaction, just as there is with Christianity and with every other religion. Also, most of what I'm talking about comes from this book. It's great. It's called Opening the Heart of Compassion, and I highly recommend it. And in some sense, I'm just giving a book report. And the last thing I want to say before getting into the actual content of this talk is that I'm just giving a book report. When I talk about these realms of suffering, that does not mean just because I'm able to talk about them that I am not in them. And when I talk about illusions, just because I can say this is an illusion does not mean that I'm going to notice that illusion in my life when it's happening to me necessarily. So I'm not some spiritual authority. I'm a person who is passionate about talking about things. So, that's, yeah, take it that way. So what is a realm? What are these things? I want to talk about the concept of a realm because it's very interesting. A realm is an attitude towards reality, as I'm defining it, that is both illusory, which means that you do not have to see the world this way because it is not essentially this way. It only is in your perception, in your feeling, in your posture, in the way that you are experiencing it, which can be real. Your experience is real, but it does not have to be that way. So it's illusory, and it is self-reinforcing. So when you approach the world with this posture or this attitude, then the world will respond in a way that makes it more true. This self-reinforcement, yeah, as I just said, is not only a bias in your own perception. It is also a dynamic co-created by you and the world's response to you. And also, we're only concerned about things like this that cause suffering. I see this claim of like that this dynamic can happen as sort of on a spectrum in between two more familiar points to probably most listeners. So confirmation bias is like this widely accepted thing in psychology. When we believe something, we are more likely to notice evidence confirming that belief than evidence that would be against that belief. We'll just kind of ignore the evidence that is against it and forget about it more easily. And that this is well understood. And then there's also this idea of manifesting, again, common in my culture, California, that is about when you really believe something and project it into the world, you can make it true, and in a kind of mysterious way. The Buddhist realms claim is kind of in between these two. It is not just confirmation bias, though that is happening, that is part of it, and it is the world responding to how you behave. I believe something, and then that makes me act a certain way, and then that makes the world respond a certain way, and then that makes me feel more that way. And there can be a dynamic like that, but it doesn't happen for everything. You can believe that you can fly, and the world will very quickly correct you. It happens for these 6 things, is the claim that Buddhism is making, and they're specific, and we can talk about them. Before just listing them off, I want to give an example of everyday situations that have this structure that look like this, and they are kind of in the realm. So like this one's kind of part of the hungry ghost realm, which I'll get to. But imagine someone who believes, and I'm sure we've either been this or met people like this, it's really sadly common, thinking no one could ever want to date me and feeling this way. And what will happen if you feel and think this way? Well, you'll fail to invest in your own attractiveness because you'll feel like it's hopeless. You'll lack confidence. You'll have poor posture. You'll be blind to positive signals from others. This is the confirmation bias part. And then if you do notice that someone is into you or maybe interested in you, then you might be desperate and like kind of grab onto that. And then that's unattractive. And so they pull back. You can get mopey and depressive. And as a result of all of these things, fewer people will want to date you, and you'll notice that, and it will be true. But it doesn't have to be that way. It is a co-dynamic created between you and the world, and you can pull out of it. Another example is the idea everyone is out to get me. Sometimes people feel this way. This one's a little bit in the hell realm. And if you feel this way, then you treat others with suspicion because they might be bad. And you will react to perceived slights. If someone messes up and offends you or hurts you a little bit in some way, then you'll respond harshly and you'll be unforgiving because they're a bad person and you need to get them out of your life because you've been victimized by them. Others might become uncomfortable around you as a result of this. They don't feel safe giving you feedback because when you mess up and they try to correct you, maybe that hurts your feelings and then they're bad. And as a result of this, you might get passive aggressively pushed away because there's sort of no safe way for others to handle you. And then it feels like other people are out to get you even more. So both of those, very sad, and it's easy to see how they can cause suffering. Now I'm just going to talk about all of them, and kind of name them precisely. So there's the hell realm, the animal realm, hungry ghost realm, that's also called Preta, the Titan realm, the human realm, and the god realm. The top three are very interesting. I would say the top three are more complex. So I'm going to name one sentence that is a belief about the way the world is that encapsulates each of these realms. These are not just beliefs, they're feelings, they're experiences, they're more than this. But I'm just going to run through and you can listen to them and see how you feel about them also. So the hell realm is that the world is evil. It's full of perpetrators and their victims. And also, the world is a battle between good and evil. The animal realm is that the world is dangerous. It is a struggle to survive. The hungry ghost realm is that the world is deprived. It is full of scarcity. Things aren't enough. The Titan or demigod realm is that the world is unfair. It's full of competition and inequity. The human realm is that the world is understandable. It is full of reducible complexity. And the God realm is that the world is perfect. It is just as it should be. This too is an illusion because perfection's an idea. We just made that up. And I think this one is especially interesting. So I want to take a pause here, and if you are willing, introspect a little bit and think about which one of those did you react to? Which one did you want to be like, no, Carson, screw you. Like, the world is this way somewhat. Of course, it's more complicated than that, but it's important that we notice this true fact about the world and respond to it and stuff. And it'll be bad if we kind of pretend that this isn't the case. I will posit that if you had an emotional reaction to any of these, that might be a hint. So maybe pay special attention to the description of that realm moving forwards. Another thing that Buddhism says about these realms is that it will be okay. What I mean by that is you can imagine someone in the Titan realm thinking, well, it's important to perceive the world as unfair. If I stop, then I will let myself or others be taken advantage of because it is indeed unfair. And you can imagine someone in the human realm saying, no, it's important to understand things cognitively. The human realm is very about cognitive understanding, philosophy, what we're doing here. If I trust my feelings or experience over analysis, over thoughts, then charlatans will easily fool me. I'll have bad epistemic hygiene. That's a phrase you hear a whole lot. The God realm might say, if I stop focusing on the beautiful parts of life, then everything will suck. Well, you won't, they won't, and it won't. The reason why can be complicated and also simple, and part of it is just why. But you don't need to believe in illusion to live your life and have your values and act in any particular way. So that's part of it, but we'll talk more. It will be okay. There's another thing that can happen. So as we've seen, the realms can defend themselves. This is an example of a realms defending themselves, saying that it's important that you stay here. And as we progress spiritually, these defenses can become more subtle, and they have a way of disguising themselves as nobility. Rather than being like, oh, the world's just this way, it's like, no, we need to be this way. This is good that we believe this. I think that here, the best way to avoid this trap is just humility, remembering that neither I nor you, we are all extraordinarily unlikely to become a Buddha or enlightened or free of illusion in our lifetime. So we're always going to be caught in some of these. That doesn't mean don't try. That doesn't mean don't try to notice them. But have humility about it. Which one are you caught in now? Is a kind of a better question than am I caught in any of these? So I'm going to go through them again with a bit more detail. I'll be going through them in order, but you can pay specific attention to the one you're most interested in. I think they're all pretty fascinating, and I can see elements of all of them in myself and in other people. So what is the Hell Realm about? The Hell Realm is about good and evil, it's about victimhood, it's about righteous anger, it's about blame, and it's about guilt. The stance of evildoers deserve punishment towards the world reflects an indulgence of guilt towards ourselves. And lots of writing points out the mirror between these two things. That if I believe that the world is guilty, or that I have been wronged, or evildoers need to be punished, then I'm probably not going to be very kind and forgiving to myself. I'm probably going to be someone who deals with a lot of guilt myself. And the spiritual masquerade here is the penitent, saying that feeling guilty, feeling shame is noble. I'm not saying guilt shouldn't exist. Guilt exists for a reason. It's an emotion. And emotions tell us things, and guilt tells us things. Guilt tells us when we've done something wrong. But forcing yourself into a role as a sinner or something like that can be damaging. This realm, the Hell Realm, maps almost perfectly to a thing from the 1950s in America, which is awesome, the Cartman drama triangle. It says that we can create a story, we can create a drama about there being a hero, a villain, and a victim. These three roles are all connected to one another. When you identify yourself as a victim, you're one, likely to go turn around and be a villain to someone else because you've been hurt. A hero who comes along and says, I'm here to save you, reinforces your status as a victim and the other person's status as a villain. Someone who thinks they're a hero is likely to victimize someone that they perceive to be a villain. And this whole story of someone is wrong, someone is evil, and someone's a savior causes a lot of suffering. And it's a trap, and it's not real. And this is what the Cartman drama triangle says as well. If you come up to someone and you're like, you've been wronged, I'm here to save you, and they're like, I'm just living my life, man, and then you say, well, no, this person's oppressing you, then as a result you feel terrible about that and you start to believe you're a victim. Really, the person who came and saved you has hurt you a whole lot. They've hurt your agency, they've taken your agency. Hell Realm's about that. All right, let's move to the animal realm. So the animal realm is about territorialness, an attachment to routine, and rigidity. And it is seeking safety from the world through a really known little zone and protecting that zone from other people. So there's a sort of laziness in it. Laziness is a more judgmental word than Buddhism tends to use, but it's driven by fear and the need to maintain our boundaries and our self-identity and the familiar, not being open to change, not being open to the fact that you are temporary as well. And the spiritual masquerade here is the ascetic hermit. So someone who is saying, oh, I'm retreating from the world and it's because I'm extra holy and that's like the right thing to do in this world. Well, you might just be an animal realm. And yeah, very private property. The hungry ghost realm is an interesting one to me because it's one that I can certainly be in and have been in a lot. The hungry ghost realm is about dissatisfaction, frustrated wanting, regret, consumption, and ideation. So it's imagining things should be this way. I want this idea, and the world's not quite enough. And why is it not enough? It's not enough because I'm not enough. And this feeling of inadequacy and wanting and always trying to get more. And the spiritual masquerade, as you advance, is the humble seeker. You can be humble, and that's good, but it's still seeking. It's still trying to fix the world when the world isn't broken. It is just the way it is. Yeah, if you've ever seen Spirited Away, there's this ghost No Face, which is about hungry ghost. There's this character that is all about greed. He offers people money and that makes them greedy, and then they feed him and he just gets more and more and more hungry as he's trying to eat everything, and then he's really frustrated at someone who just doesn't want anything and is just like, no, it's fine, because he can't feel like it's fine. All right, the Titan realm. Let's talk a little bit more about that one. That one is about envy in a large amount. It's about the comparison of self to others. It's about achievement and perfectionism. A lot of it's rooted in shame, in feeling like, why am I not at the top? Why are all these other people, why do they have more than me? And in that way, it's a little bit like the Hungry Ghost realm, but it's much more competitively focused, and there's a lot more blame and accusation of unfairness. So it can lead to preoccupation with the ways that other people are ahead, and it's not fair that they're ahead and they've cheated. What are our disadvantages and privileges and those of others? And the spiritual masquerade here is the warrior going in and being like, no, we've got to get to the top. We've got to beat the system that is oppressing us. When you don't have to see yourself as less than, greater than, or equal to other people. All of those things are made up judgments. The human realm. This one is pretty interesting because I bet that anyone who's lasted this long in my talk is a little bit in this one. So this one's about plans, agendas, controls. It is about trying to capture experience through words and concepts and ideas and analyze it. And that's what we're doing right now, by the way. Oh, the spiritual masquerade is the philosopher, right? It's noble to be a philosopher, but philosophy can be by itself lacking. That's an interesting thing about the human realm, is it's dangerous not because of what it has. It's not that philosophy and concepts are necessarily bad, but because of what it misses. That it misses that concepts are only concepts. They're not life. They're not what's happening right now. And this can leave you open to falling into the other realms. There's an arrogance to it and a desire to control that it simply can't. Cognitive understanding will do little to liberate you. I certainly am vulnerable to this realm. And finally, there's the God or Diva realm. So there's a focus on pleasure. Vanity, delusion, blindness to the suffering of ourselves and others. This is very the kind of toxic positivity realm. The spiritual masquerade is the enlightened or false transcendence. It's saying everything is perfect. If you've ever encountered someone who, say someone comes to them and they had a really terrible day or something bad happened to them, and they're like, this awful thing happened. I think the right thing to do here is to listen to that person and empathize with them and be like, oh yeah, that is terrible. But if you've ever seen someone or been someone who comes in and is like, oh, but don't you see, this is how it's meant to be. And to a person who won't receive that well, that's a very God realm thing to do. It's not necessarily what is going to help them. It's kind of denying a true fact about their experience, which is that they're sad or they're suffering, and trying to tell someone everything is perfect it's an illusion. I think why do things need to be perfect is a good question to ask this realm, and a lot of it's about hiding from pain. So there's some patterns in the wheel. There's not a lot. I think it's pretty difficult to be in two opposite realms at a single point in time. It's hard to see the world as both perfect and evil. It's hard to see the world as both dangerous and understandable and controllable. And while both the Titan realm and the Hungry Ghost realm are kind of about not being enough and a little bit about shame, the Titan realm was much more concerned on others and the world and the unfairness in the world. And the Hungry Ghost realm is more concerned with inadequacy and our own self-inadequacy. They also map to sins, which is something that I thought is really cool. And I mean, they officially map to sins. In Mahayana Buddhism, the sins are slightly different than the Christian ones, but they make lots of sense. The God realm is pride, the Titan realm is envy, the animal realm is stupidity, which is kind of hilarious because that is a Buddhist sin, I guess, is stupidity. Wrath is the hell realm, greed is Hungry Ghost, and lust is the human realm. So they almost are the Christian ones. Stupidity might be the same thing as sloth. I'm not sure, but sloth feels like it really fits the animal realm as well. Gluttony always seemed like kind of a weird sin to me, like kind of in between greed and lust, maybe a bit of a fusion of the two of them. Let's talk about escaping the realms, because that's hopefully what's most interesting about them, is it doesn't have to be this way. How do we escape? The short answer, we follow the Eightfold Path. That's Buddhism's answer for how you avoid suffering in general, or how you alleviate suffering in general. However, there do exist specific qualities that can help us escape each realm. And I think that there's a certain poetry to what each of those meditations for those qualities is trying to cultivate, because it is exactly what each realm is afraid of. So how you get out of hell is forgiveness. cultivate forgiveness. And that is exactly what someone in the hell realm does not want to do, is forgive themselves and forgive others, because they're wrong, they're evil, they're villains, whatever. And also, this is an amazing correspondence. Both Christianity and Buddhism agree that hell is a thing, and it's about guilt and righteousness and sin and good and evil, and the way you get out of it is forgiveness. I thought that's a really beautiful correspondence between very different traditions. How you get out of the animal realm is about hosting. So it's about territory. You gotta invite others into your territory. You've gotta be with other people. The meditation that the book recommends, which it recommends specific meditations to cultivate each of these, is a pair meditation for the animal one. It's like, be with other people. How you get out of the hungry ghost realm is with generosity. So you feel like there's not enough and things aren't enough and what you have is insufficient, give it away. The human realm is about pause. So let's do that for a second. Because we're doing human realm right now. Yeah, it's about appreciating the way the world is now without trying to control it, without trying to contain it, without trying to understand it. The description for the Titan realm was rather complicated, so I definitely recommend looking into the book. A lot of it's about harmony, about being like, rather than taking this warrior stance, being like, no, I want to promote harmony in everything around them, that in everything around me, without worrying about who's ahead in the imaginary competition. And it's about true responsibility. Whatever I want in life, it is my job to do whatever I can. I've just been handed the world. I have to do what I can with what I have. And then the God realm actually surprised me. I thought it was going to be like, look at suffering, but it says, look at awe. So find awe, because awe and wonder, it dissolves you. It can snap you out of a false idea of perfection. Commitment to growth, being like, we're never done. Things are not perfect. So this is easier said than done. Knowing you are caught in an illusion does not free you, but I think awareness helps. And you can meditate, and that is the approach that Buddhism tends to use, and that this book uses as well. It has specific meditations for each of the realms. So I hope you're curious, and I hope this was cool. I hope some of it resonated or offended you in a way that's interesting. Check out the book. Thanks for listening.